single dad hired a babysitter for his twin daughters. Incredibly, her true identity was revealed. Jack had never imagined how much life could change in just a few years. The once vibrant laughter of his household had dimmed to echoes of sorrow after the love of his life, Lily's and Emma's mother, passed away from cancer. Now, at 35, he found himself juggling soccer practices, school projects, and bedtime stories, all while trying to hold down a demanding job at the local hardware store. The weight of it all pressed heavy on his chest. He longed for the laughter that once filled their home, a brightness he hadn't felt in years. Reluctantly, he decided to hire a babysitter, believing it might breathe some life back into their lives. Enter Sarah, a bubbly 25-year-old who burst into their home with the warmth of a summer breeze. Her laughter was infectious, a delightful melody Jack hadn't realized he missed. Emma and Lily's faces lit up like Christmas morning, the constant shadow of grief fading as Sarah filled the house with art projects and stories. Jack couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Perhaps he could carve a new path for his daughters, where joy coexisted with their memories of mom. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah grew more entangled in their lives. Jack admired her resilience, her ability to connect with the girls so effortlessly. But whispers followed her like shadows. The community buzzed, shifting from admiration to skepticism, as doubts crept in regarding Sarah's suitability. Rumors spread, started by a local woman who felt threatened by Sarah's presence. Jack could sense the tension thickening in the air when Emma and Lily overheard those whispers at school. Their innocent questions about Sarah's past tightened the grip around Jack's heart. He wanted to protect his daughters while trusting the vibrant young woman who brought light back into his home. Yet uncertainty gnawed at him. Could he defend someone he barely knew against a community eager to judge? In a matter of days, gossip escalated to headlines, painting Sarah in a sinister light. Jack stood at a crossroads, caught between his growing feelings for Sarah and the whispers that threatened to engulf them. It culminated in a tense evening as Sarah faced him, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm not what they say," she uttered, vulnerability laid bare. Jack felt the weight of her pain, intertwining with his struggles, as a realization hit him. The world they lived in was flawed, but perhaps together, they could challenge its imperfections. As he opened his mouth to respond, the doorbell rang, a sudden interruption to the storm brewing inside him. Would he stand by her side and defy the judgments of their small town, or would he allow fear to drive a wedge between them? The air was heavy with uncertainty, leaving Jack and the reader on the precipice of a life-changing decision. Jack's heart raced as he pushed the thoughts of the whispers aside. Who could it be at this hour? His mind was in a frenzy, overwhelmed by the choice he had to make. He opened the door, taking a moment to compose himself. On the other side stood a tall figure he hadn't expected, Karen, the very woman whose rumors had ignited the fire against Sarah. "Jack," she said, her tone feigning concern. "I heard about the drama at school. Can we talk?" Jack's mind screamed for him to shut the door, yet his instincts told him that this might be vital. Sighing, he stepped aside and let her in. "Make it quick." He led her to the living room where Sarah was still trying to wipe away her tears, a mix of vulnerability and defiance playing across her face. "I'm just worried about the girls," Karen began, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "You know how kids can pick up on things, right? I just don't think Sarah is the right influence." "Why are you here, Karen?" Jack found himself asking, frustration lacing his tone. "Do you really care about my daughters, or are you just looking to stir the pot?" She flinched at his words, but quickly masked her reaction with a plastic smile. "I just want to help, Jack. You've been through so much. You deserve someone stable and trustworthy." "Sarah is that person," he snapped, feeling protective. "You don't even know her." "Or do I?" She countered, a smug glint in her eye. "What do you really know about her, Jack?" What if she has a past that could hurt your girls? The room fell silent. Lily and Emma appeared at the top of the stairs, curious about the commotion. Jack's stomach nodded. He didn't want them to hear any more of this, but he also felt the weight of the truth pressing down. Were they safe with Sarah? I want you to leave, he said firmly, pointing toward the door. Fine, Karen huffed, but not before leaning closer, her voice low and conspiratorial. Just remember, I warned you. Jack didn't respond, but his mind swirled with doubt. He turned back to Sarah, who looked small and terrified. I just wanted to be good for you and the girls. I believe you, he whispered, taking a step forward, but uncertainty still gripped him. In that moment of connection, the girls entered the room, breaking the tension. Emma dashed toward Sarah, wrapping her little arms around her waist. Don't cry, Sarah. We love you. Lily echoed her sister's sentiments, and Jack watched as joy flickered back to Sarah's face despite the heaviness in the air. See? He said, feeling a flicker of defiance. They believe in you. But doubt hadn't vanished completely. As the girls played on the floor, an invisible barrier still stood between him and Sarah, pushed there by society's judgment and his own fears. Jack, Sarah said softly, her eyes searching his. If there is something you want to know, I'll tell you. I don't want any secrets between us. The sincerity in her voice almost broke him. But as he opened his mouth to speak, another knock echoed through the house, more insistent this time. Jack turned toward the door, heart racing once again. Who could it be now? What did they want? Whatever or whoever awaited them on the other side felt like the answer to the tension that was building. Stay here, he instructed Sarah, a mix of protectiveness and trepidation washing over him. He stepped toward the door, uncertainty pressing against his chest. Could this be the moment that shattered everything, or the one that might finally unite them all? Jack opened the door, his breath catching as he saw the familiar face of Mark, his old friend. Behind him, the night loomed heavy, the shadows of uncertainty stretching like dark fingers. Hey, Jack, Mark said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. I heard about the trouble at school. He just barged in, eyes scanning the room, landing on Sarah. Jack's protective instincts flared, but the concern etched on Mark's face gave him pause. What do you know about all this? Jack demanded, glancing back at Sarah, who stood stiffly, her features taut. Let us not play games, Mark replied, crossing his arms as he leaned against the wall. Everyone's talking, Jack. About the new girl. They say she has trouble. The two girls were still at Sarah's feet, playing without a care in the world, blissfully unaware of the adult's tense energy. But Jack felt the room thicken with words unspoken. What do you mean trouble? He asked, his voice low and steady, though inside, he felt the heat of anger rising. You don't know her. That's exactly my point. I don't know her. No one does. And they're worried. Mark lowered his voice. You should be too. What if it's true? What if she has a history? The tension in Jack's chest twisted painfully. Would he risk everything on blind faith? Just as Sarah reached for him, looking in his eyes for reassurance, he turned to Mark, and there was something there that tugged at him, a flicker of genuine concern, mixed with an undercurrent of fear. Stop, Jack said, cutting through the air like a knife. Stop talking about her like she's not in the room. You don't know what she's been through, what she's trying to do for my girls. You're not a parent. You can't understand. Sarah's eyes glimmered, a mixture of gratitude and fear, and Jack felt pulled in two directions, the deep bond he was forming with Sarah and the worry over the girl's safety. I'm just looking out for you, Mark pressed, but Jack shook his head. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about my daughters. As the silence stretched between them, Mark finally shifted his tone, softer now. Okay. I get that you want to protect them. Just think carefully, Jack. What if that connection blinds you? Before Jack could respond, a sharp cry broke the moment. Lily had stumbled, her small feet tangling in a toy, falling against the ground with a hard thud. Emma rushed to her sister's side, panic in her eyes.
Lily. Jack was at their side in an instant, his fatherly instincts kicking in.
Hey, you're okay, he soothed, lifting Lily into his arms. She looked up at him, tears spilling over.
I don't want Sarah to leave us, Daddy. I'm scared.
The weight of those words crashed into Jack. He glanced at Sarah, who stood, emotions swirling on her face, fear, sadness, determination. He felt her heartache mirror his own. Lily, sweetheart, he said gently, Sarah loves you.
She won't go anywhere. I promise.
As he comforted Lily, he took in the faces surrounding him. The severity of their situation pressed down like a fog, and then it hit him.
What if Marcus' warnings were based on truths he hadn't considered? What if his commitment to Sarah could unwittingly put his daughters at risk? What do you really know about her, Jack? Karen's words echoed in his mind, sparking fresh doubts. Lily. Marcus' voice broke through. I think it's time to find out what you need to know. Jack stared into Mark's eyes, weighing the choice of trust against doubt.
Could he truly unravel the story of the woman he had begun to care for, without sacrificing the happiness of his daughters or his own heart? The stir of voices faded as Jack turned to Sarah, but before he could speak, the door swung open again, revealing a figure that made his blood run cold. It was a woman from his past, one who could shatter everything he thought he knew. Jack, she said, her voice heavy with emotion.
We need to talk.
Jack froze, the air heavy and charged. His eyes locked onto the woman at the door, the ghost from his past that he had tried so hard to bury. It was Rachel. She stood there, her blonde hair framing a face that used to bring him warmth, but now, all it brought was the cold grip of memories he couldn't shake. Rachel, he said, his voice trailing off. His heart raced, confusion and dread flooding his senses. Mark stepped away from the wall, his expression shifting into one of alarm.
What the hell are you doing here? He demanded.
Rachel looked at Mark, her expression hardening. I'm not here for you, she snapped, her gaze swinging back to Jack.
This is between us. Between us?
Jack's hands clenched into fists, a mixture of anger and past disappointment crashing over him like a wave. They had a history, but he thought that history was behind him.
What do you want? It's not what I want, Jack.
It's what you need to know about Sarah, she said, her voice catching slightly.
The name hung in the air like a loaded gun. Lily, still in Jack's arms, nestled closer and blinked at the woman she didn't recognize.
Emma stood beside her, her little hand clasped tightly on Jack's shirt, sensing the turbulence in the air. Mark moved closer, hands on his hips.
This is not the time for games, Rachel. You need to leave. No. Rachel snapped. I'm tired of being pushed away. I came to warn him. Warn me? Jack echoed incredulously. About what? About Sarah?
About everything, she said, stepping forward, her voice lowering.
You don't know who she really is. She has secrets, dangerous ones.
She is not who you think she is. Each word sliced through Jack, leaving a sting that settled deep. For a moment, it felt like the world around him had crashed, and clarity shattered to pieces on his living room floor.
What do you mean? Sarah's voice emerged, shaky yet firm.
She stepped forward, pulling herself into the space, and Jack felt her silent plea. She was ready to fight.
What secrets? Rachel hesitated, her bravado wavering. I can't say here, it's not safe. But I've seen her with people you don't want in your lives.
Jack felt Sarah's tension, the raw fear painted across her face. Memories came rushing back, the nights he begged for answers, the shadows in his mind lingering long after she was gone.
Was Rachel only here to stir trouble, or did she genuinely care?
Get out, he said, the words coming out more as a whisper, yet loud enough to carry weight.
Get out before I call the police. No.
Lily cried softly, and Jack felt her small arms tighten around him like a lifeline.
Please don't let her go. The conflict churned inside Jack.
He wanted to protect his daughters, to deny the whisper of doubt creeping in. But somehow, the truth that Rachel claimed lurked behind Sarah felt like ice, chilling everything he wanted to believe. Rachel shook her head, tears forming in her eyes.
You think you know her, but she's running away from something, Jack. Something that can come back. Sarah's expression turned from defiance to desperation.
I am just trying to create a safe place for them.
Why can't you understand that?
The tension in the room escalated, words hanging heavy like a storm ready to break. Someone was lying, and Jack needed answers.
Tell me, he said finally, his voice steadier than he felt. Who are you, Sarah? What are you hiding?
The air thick with emotion, Jack braced himself for the truth, fearing it might shatter their fragile world. But before she could respond, the lights flickered, casting an unsettling shadow. A loud bang echoed from outside, making everyone jump.
Jack!
Mark shouted, rushing to the window.
Something's happening outside. You need to see this.
As Jack turned to follow him, a rush of dread washed over him. What he was up against, he couldn't fathom, but he knew that the truth was unraveling. He had to protect his girls. Stay close, he said, heart racing, aware that the answers they sought might lead to darker places than he had ever imagined.
And as they moved toward the window, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the night was only just beginning to reveal its secrets.
Jack stepped carefully towards the window, his heart pounding like a drum. He could feel Lily's small fingers grip the back of his shirt, her presence a small comfort amidst the chaos. Emma stood wide-eyed beside her, the innocence of childhood battling the heavy shadows now cloaking their home. Mark stood at the window, his expression twisted with concern. You need to see this, he urged, glancing back at Jack with urgency.
What's going on?
Jack's voice was tight, barely a whisper as he pulled the curtain aside just enough to catch a glimpse outside. The street was ablaze with flashing lights. Red and blue strobe beams cut through the darkness, illuminating a scene that felt surreal: a police car and an ambulance parked outside, a crowd starting to gather.
Jack's gut twisted. What had happened? Was this connected to the confrontation with Rachel? Stay here, he ordered, his instincts kicking in. Don't move.
He pushed past Mark, desperately searching for answers through the nearest window.
The dramatic chaos outside felt a world away, but the tension inside was suffocating. What's the rush to the window?
Rachel's voice cut through the air, sharp and curious. Her eyes darted between Jack and Sarah, a mix of accusation and concern painted across her features. Jack felt the tension spike at her words, her presence only increasing the pressure pounding in his chest.
You don't really have a right to be here, Rachel, he shot back. You've stirred enough trouble already.
Lily peeked around his waist, her voice a fragile whisper.
Is everything okay, Daddy?
Jack knelt beside her, trying to summon calm amidst the rising tide of anxiety.
Yeah, honey. It's just a lot happening right now.
Deep down, he knew it was a lie. Everything felt shaky and uncertain, like a foundation built on sand. I need to check on the girls, Sarah said, stepping closer to Jack, her eyes fierce but fluid with fear.
They're scared. Jack hesitated, knowing the tension wasn't just in the air, it was in Sarah too.
You don't have to do this alone, he replied, his voice low, trying to soothe the storm raging in both of them.
Whatever's going on outside, it's no coincidence, Rachel said, her tone laced with urgency. Jack, you have to listen to me. I didn't come back for nothing.
I'm trying to protect you and your daughters from the words hung in the air, unfinished, like a ribbon torn mid-string. Jack turned, expecting her to say more, but she stopped, her features contorted with a mixture of anguish and fear.
From what? Mark pressed, impatience staining his voice. Just tell us.
From what's coming, Rachel finally said, her voice breaking. There are people looking for Sarah, people who won't stop until they find her. Jack felt the weight of the words settle between them like a thick fog. He glanced at Sarah, the worry etched deep on her face. Realization began to dawn, the creeping anxiety morphing into something sharper, a fear of not just the unknown, but also of betrayal.
Sarah, is this true?
Jack asked, voice steady but filled with urgency.
What are you running from? Are we in danger?
The urgency of the moment pushed Sarah to speak, and Jack held his breath. In that split second, the isolation of their quiet home felt worlds apart from the chaos waiting outside. But before she could answer, the loud crack of a door slamming against the wall echoed through the house, freezing everyone in place.
"Jack!" A familiar voice bellowed, intense and frantic. "We need to talk now." Jack's heart sank as he recognized the voice.
The night had only just begun, and the truth was demanding to be uncovered in the most shocking way possible. He turned back to watch, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach, as he saw who stood in the doorway. What if it wasn't just Rachel and the secrets still lurking in the shadows? He braced himself for what was about to unravel. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The figure in the doorway was unmistakable. Tom, his brother-in-law, stormed in with a wild look in his eyes. Sweat glistened on his forehead, and the tension radiating from him filled the room like a storm cloud.
"Tom, what's going on?"
Jack demanded, his voice sharper than he intended. The fear for Sarah and the girls mingled with his unease about Tom's abrupt appearance.
"Listen, I don't have much time."
"The cops are looking for you guys," Tom said, his voice low and urgent.
"They think Sarah's involved in something serious, and if they find her?"
Jack interrupted, panic threading through his veins.
"What do you mean?"
Tom stared at him, his gaze flickering to Rachel, then back to Jack.
"Someone has been asking questions. Something about a deal gone wrong. It involves people you don't want to mess with, Jack."
Jack felt the floor shift beneath him. He could hear the muffled voices outside, the murmur of the crowd mingling with the cascade of sirens.
He couldn't let that chaos seep into their lives. "What do you know?" he pressed. Rachel took a step forward. "You can't just walk in here and throw accusations around, Tom. You don't know what we've been through." "Then help me understand."
Tom snapped, frustration boiling just under the surface. "I'm trying to protect you all.
The last thing I need is to see my family dragged into this mess."
Lily squeezed Jack's shirt tighter, peering up with wide, innocent eyes that mirrored the uncertainty in his heart. Okay, let us all just take a breath," Jack said, trying to slow the panic spiraling in his chest.
"Sarah, please, now is the time. What's really going on?"
Facing Tom and Rachel, Sarah finally spoke, her voice tremulous but determined.
"There are people looking for me because of a mistake from my past, something I thought I could leave behind."
Jack could feel his heart race as he imagined layers of deception worming their way through their lives.
"What do they want?" The weight of every second seemed to press down on him.
"Forcing me to pay for something I didn't do," she replied, tears threatening to spill down her cheeks. "I was an associate in this ring. I didn't see the danger until it was too late. I thought I could escape, but now they won't let me." Mark looked to Jack, their shared concern about the girls evident in the twitch of his brow.
"So what's the plan?" "We can't stay here."
Tom nodded, glancing nervously towards the window again.
"We need to get you all out of here. They'll come looking. You won't have time." Jack's thoughts raced.
The girls, Rachel's unstable presence, and now Tom bringing more chaos into their lives, all of it felt like pieces on a board, sliding toward a dangerous endgame.
"Sarah, why didn't you tell me sooner?"
he asked, hurt slicing through the panic.
"I wanted to protect you, all of you,"
she exclaimed, her voice breaking. "It was my burden to carry." Before Jack could respond, a loud knock echoed through the house. The door rattled on its hinges, a thud that resonated through their bodies. The urgency spiraled into fear, the shadows of reality closing in.
"They're here," Tom warned, moving to the door. "Jack, you have to trust me. We can't let them take her."
The urgency electrified the room, pushing Jack to make a decision. He could feel the stakes rising, a swell of desperation that left no room for doubt.
"Come on, we need to go now,"
Jack urged, his eyes on Sarah. But even as they moved, the looming threat outside felt like a shadow stretching over them all. Just when they thought they had a plan, Jack's phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. Against the backdrop of chaos, the weight of that message settled heavily in the air, an alert that might change everything again. He hesitated, knowing it could reveal a truth that could shake their fragile world to pieces. What if it wasn't just the past they needed to escape from, but secrets that could unravel the very fabric of their lives? Jack took a breath,
preparing to face what was coming.
Jack pulled his phone out, trembling as he glanced at the screen. The notification chilled his blood, an unknown number sending an ominous message.
"We know where you are, Jack. You can't hide her from us." It felt like ice water running through his veins, electrifying his body into motion. "Who is it?" Tom asked, looking over his shoulder as if the walls themselves might betray them.
"I don't know, but they know we're here."
Jack's voice was taut with dread. "We have to move. Now." The knocking grew frantic, each reverberation sending a shockwave of adrenaline racing through his body. He met Sarah's eyes, searching for reassurance.
Her face was a mix of fear and defiance.
"I can't let them find me."
"I want to go back there," she whispered fiercely.
"Then we need a plan," he replied. "Somewhere safe." "The garage," Tom suggested, urgency stitching his brow.
"There's a back door, but we have to make it there without being seen." "Okay, let us stick together," Jack instructed, glancing at Rachel and the girls. Lily was still holding onto him tightly, her small body a reminder of what was at stake.
"Don't let go of my hand, okay?" Rachel nodded, panic etched on her face but determination overshadowing it.
They couldn't afford to bicker now, every second counted. As they moved toward the back of the house, the sound of voices rose outside. They were looking for them, the outside world turning into a hunting ground. Each footstep felt weighted, as though time had slowed down, amplifying the thudding of his heart. "Tom, go first," Jack whispered.
"Lead the way." They slipped into the hallway, Sarah trailing closely behind Jack.
The air felt electric, thick with silent urgency. He stole a glance back at her, her expression fragile, but fierce. He couldn't let fear consume them. They were going to get through this, he promised silently as they approached the garage door at the end of the hall. Suddenly, another loud bang resonated from the front of the house. It sounded like the door being kicked in. Jack froze. The softness of the moment evaporated, leaving only the heavy weight of reality.
"Go! Now!"
Tom urged, pushing the door open with a quick jerk. The dim light of the garage spilled out, a haven amidst the shadows. They rushed in, Jack taking one last look back at the door before it slammed shut behind them. "We need something to block it," he said, scanning the clutter that filled the small room. An old shelf, rusted tools, boxes piled high, nothing that could stop a determined force.
"I got it,"
Tom yelled, grabbing a heavy wooden workbench and shoving it against the door. As the door rattled against the pressure, Jack felt raw panic coursing through him.
What if they broke in? What if they found Sarah? Both possibilities twisted like knives in his gut. Do they really think they can intimidate us?
Rachel whispered, her voice wavering but defiant. "It's not about intimidation," Tom replied, his brow furrowed.
"They want something. We need to know why they're after her." Jack felt a surge of anger.
They had been a family, working toward a fresh start, but it felt like the past had come back to claim Sarah in the most vicious way. "We can't stay here long," he urged. "They'll hurry up and realize we're not in the house."
Just then, another buzz from Jack's phone made them all jump.
He glanced down, dread pooling in his stomach.
The sender wasn't unknown anymore. It was Sarah's ex-partner, the one who had dragged her into this mess.
"Jack, what does it say?" Sarah's voice trembled slightly as he read the message aloud. "You can't protect her, Jack.
We'll find you. You're in way over your head."
Fear clawed at his throat. How deep were these shadows? The noise outside grew louder, footsteps prowling.
Jack knew they had moments, maybe seconds.
If they were going to escape, they needed to take action now before the walls of their lives tumbled down around them.
"We have to leave, now."
"But where do we go?" As they prepared to rush out of the garage, another troubling thought hit Jack.
What if they ran right into a trap?
The stakes were higher than ever, with no signs of slowing down. But before he could voice that concern, the door rattled violently.
"Jack! Do you have a plan?"
Sarah asked, her eyes wide with fear.
"I'll figure it out. Stay close," he said, feeling every moment like it might be the last. Just then, in the suffocating darkness of the garage, an unexpected shadow shifted. Someone jumped into the light, revealing a familiar face, one that brought more questions than answers. "What are you doing here?"
the person asked, a hint of urgency cutting through the atmosphere.
Jack's heart raced. This was someone he thought he could trust. But could this person really help, or were they about to take everything he loved and plunge it into chaos?
Jack's mind reeled as he recognized the familiar face stepping out of the shadows. It was Mia, his sister, the one person who seemed to always know when he needed help, yet everything felt off. There was something strained in her expression, anxiety replacing her usual warmth.
"What are you doing here?"
Jack's voice was low, almost a growl. He had not spoken with her in months, not since their last family gathering ended in a he-said-she-said argument about Sarah. Trust was a fragile thing, and he wasn't sure it still existed between them. "I heard what happened," Mia replied, urgency lacing her words.
"Someone told me. I came as soon as I could."
Jack's heart pounded in his chest.
"And you think you can just stroll in here and fix everything?"
He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The stakes had never been higher, and the last thing he wanted was more complications. Before she could respond, the door shook violently, a loud thud echoing through the garage. The sound sent a jolt of panic through the group.
"Jack!"
Sarah's voice was a terrified whisper, her grip tightening on his arm.
"We can't trust her."
"I know," Jack said, searching Mia's face for any hint of deception.
"But we don't have time to argue right now." The door rattled again, each strike a reminder that their safe haven was crumbling. "Listen to me." Mia's voice rose, drawing everyone's attention. "I can help. There's a hidden exit in here. I came prepared."
She turned, pulling down a set of metal shelves, revealing a small door behind them that they hadn't noticed before. Jack exchanged glances with the others.
"Are you sure it's safe?"
he asked, doubt clawing at his mind. Mia had always been the wild card in their family, prone to making rash decisions.
"I swear, it will lead us out," she insisted. "But we need to move now." Tom took a step forward and peered through the small opening. "It's dark, but I'll go first," he said, squaring his shoulders, the boyish bravado shining through the fear. "If it's clear, we'll follow."
Before Jack could protest, Tom squeezed through the narrow door, disappearing into the shadows beyond.
Jack felt a mix of gratitude and apprehension as he considered this twist of fate.
They could escape, but at the risk of putting their trust in someone with a fraught history.
"Go!" Mia urged, turning to Jack.
"I'll help the girls through." Jack hesitated, every instinct screaming at him to protect Sarah and the kids, but the force of the moment propelled him forward. He ushered Lily and Rachel closer, keeping them tucked beneath his arms.
"We stick together," he vowed with every ounce of strength, determination carving into his voice. Sarah's eyes locked on his.
They were a blend of trust and fear.
"And after we get out?" she asked. "What then?"
"First, survive," Jack replied fiercely.
"Then we can figure it out." Tom called back from the darkness, "It's clear. Come on."
Mia was managing to keep Lily steady, her own anxiety chipping away at her composure. Jack glanced at Sarah one last time, a silent promise in his gaze. They were going to find a way out, one way or another. They shuffled together, moving into the darkness. Each step felt like they were walking into the unknown, weighed down by the heavy tension of doubt. Jack's heart raced, fear curling in his gut at the thought of what awaited them beyond the hidden door. As they slipped through, the air turned colder, more foreboding. Jack's instincts screamed at him to hurry but not to let down his guard. Each sound echoed ominously against the walls, and anxiety trickled through him like a slowly creeping shadow. Suddenly, the door behind them creaked open, and Jack turned just in time to see a figure emerge, the last person he would have ever expected to find here, the one who might very well disrupt everything.
"What are you doing here?" Jack demanded, prepared to defend his family at all costs.
But the answer that came was both shocking and chilling. "I came to help, but I can't help unless you trust me," the figure said, stepping closer, eyes narrowing in the dim light. Jack's heart thudded loudly in his ears. The urgency of the moment reached a fever pitch.
Would trust be the key to their survival, or would it become their greatest mistake?
Jack's pulse quickened as the figure stepped forward, dimly illuminated by the faint light that barely reached the corners of the room. Recognition washed over him, a mix of disbelief and dread coiling in his stomach.
No way, he breathed, taking a step back. Mia, stay close.
He barked, turning back toward his sister.
He needed to protect her and everyone else around him. Yet, Mia's expression was twisted, caught somewhere between surprise and relief. Rachel?
Mia's voice trembled, a name slipping from her lips as if it were both a confirmation and a question.
Yeah, it's me.
Rachel grinned, though the tension in her shoulders told a different story.
I came to help, Jack. I heard everything.
You must trust me. Jack shook his head, battling confusion and frustration. Rachel had always been a part of their lives, Sarah's childhood friend, always spilling secrets and stories that made Jack roll his eyes.
But now, here she was, an unexpected ally in an already convoluted mess. Trust? You want us to trust you? Jack spat, disbelief fueling his anger. After everything that happened? Jack, listen. Rachel continued, urgency filling her voice. Things have changed. You don't understand what's at stake.
I wasn't just a babysitter, I'm Rachel.
Enough. Jack interrupted, his voice echoing in the tight space. He watched as fear stole over the faces of the others. Do you hear that?
He glanced at the door, the thudding had intensified, now accompanied by muffled voices.
They were closing in. We don't have time for whatever this is.
Sarah stepped forward, her hand steadying him.
Jack, maybe she knows something we don't?
If she says she can help, he clenched his jaw, ready to reject the notion. But deep down, fear and desperation were gnawing at him, making him reconsider. Rachel, he said, his tone turning low, almost pleading.
If you know a way out, tell us. No games. I promise, no games. Rachel stepped closer, her voice unwavering now. There's another exit I know about.
I wasn't always just a babysitter, I've seen the shadows and I've learned what they mean.
I can lead you through them.
Mia shifted, trying to piece together her memories of Rachel, the innocent girl who played with her and Jack as kids.
You're different now, aren't you?
Life has a way of changing people, Rachel murmured, her eyes narrowing to focus on Jack.
But I still care about all of you. Please, let me prove it.
Jack felt the storm in his chest letting up a little. He could see the flickers of honesty in Rachel's stance, but doubt lingered like a shadow.
What if you're wrong? What if this is a trap, Rachel?
A loud crash erupted outside, sending a hard tremor through the ground. All of them turned in unison toward the door, which had begun to splinter.
Panic surged through the group, tightening Jack's chest. No more time. Mia yelled, shoving them toward Rachel. Let us go. Jack, we can't wait. Jack's instincts howled for caution.
But in the gnawing pitch of urgency surrounding them, he felt something shift. If there was a chance, however slim, he couldn't afford to turn it down.
Fine, he nodded sharply, but I'm keeping an eye on you.
You mess with us, and I understand, Rachel said, determination sparkling in her gaze.
Let us move. Jack took a deep breath, heart racing anew.
They hurried forward, following Rachel, who suddenly seemed to hold the weight of their escape on her shoulders.
The darkness swallowed them up as they poured through, each of their breathless steps muffled by the chaos above.
But even as they slipped away from danger, Jack felt that familiar tension, a growing dread that the worst was far from over.
What darkness lurked beyond this exit? What secrets did Rachel still hold?
In the pitch blackness, as fear and hope intertwined, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was just beginning and what awaited them outside might test their resolve in ways they never imagined.
Would they finally find safety? Or was it all just the beginning of something far more dangerous?
Jack held his breath as they squeezed through the narrow doorway, tumbling into darkness. Every instinct screamed to be afraid, but the need to protect his girls overrode the fear clawing at his heart. The weight of uncertainty loomed heavy, but they had taken the first step toward escape. Stay close, he murmured, gripping Lilia's small hand, feeling the warmth of Emma beside him. The shadows danced around them as Rachel led the way, her form darting into the unknown like a beacon of fragile hope. "Just follow my voice," Rachel instructed, her tone brisk yet calming.
"We're almost out."
Jack could hear their breathing, shallow yet determined, as fear melded into cautious anticipation.
Minutes stretched, each step echoing the rapid beats of his heart. He glanced back at Sarah.
The tension in her face mirrored his own apprehension, but her gaze was unwavering, trusting, yet fighting back the anxiety swirling in her chest. Suddenly, a loud bang punctuated the darkness, followed by the heavy thud of footsteps outside.
Jack's stomach twisted as adrenaline surged through him.
"They're coming," he hissed, rushing them forward harder.
"Keep going. We need to pick up the pace."
The path twisted, coating them in an ominous chill. Rachel's voice pierced the silence.
"Almost there. Just a bit further."
With each step, Jack felt anger surge in his veins.
How did they get here? How had they lost the peace they fought so hard to reclaim?
But with each hurried footfall, the stakes were starkly clear. His daughter's safety rested upon this moment. Finally, the exit loomed, a faint light slicing through the darkness. Jack's heart soared. But as they reached the door, everything froze. Outside, a group of figures hovered beneath the streetlights, silhouetted and threatening.
"Are they here?"
Mia whispered, her voice trembling at the sight. "I don't know," Jack admitted, fear constricting his throat.
"What do we do? We can't go out there."
Rachel turned, her resolve firm. "If they find us, we're done.
We have to go now this way."
He could feel the pounding of his heart echo in the silence, the dread tightening around them like a noose. Yet, as they slipped towards freedom, Jack found himself looking back through the shadows, entangled in a whirlwind of memories, moments with Lily and Emma, weekends spent laughing and playing.
"Dad?" Lily's small voice pulled him back into the present. "Yeah, sweetheart?"
"I'm scared," she mumbled, eyes wide.
Jack knelt down, pulling her into a tight embrace. "Me too, honey.
But you're safe with me. Just stay close.
No one is going to hurt you."
He brushed his thumb across her cheek, the warmth and innocence grounding him against the storm raging.
"Now."
Rachel's voice cut through, snapping him back to reality. They stepped into the cold, taking advantage of the chaos outside, carefully slipping past those harrowing figures still peering around. The world was alive with murmurs of uncertainty, and with each footfall, Jack felt weightless but alive with purpose.
"Go!"
he hissed urgently as they finally crossed into the soft glow of the streetlight. A rattle of laughter broke out, a voice too familiar, one he hoped not to hear again.
"Jack! Rachel!"
he snapped, rushing forward to obscure her. Voices were nearing, and their time was running out.
"Come back, you coward!" The taunts cut through the evening air like a knife.
Jack felt rage swell in him, but he couldn't afford it. They'd make it through, and he wouldn't let anyone harm his family. Die in the frantic blur, Jack turned abruptly, eyes narrowing as he spotted a police car across the street.
Their lights flashing rhythmically offered promise of potential salvation.
"There!" he shouted, pointing toward the car, desperation painting his voice. They quickened their pace, racing toward the officers stationed, human shields against a looming danger. But just then, as they drew closer, a sinister figure stepped into their path, smirking from under a wide-brimmed hat, a flash of recognition hitting Jack like ice.
"Sarah!"
The name felt foreign on his lips, but every heartbeat drummed the truth. The lies that had brought them together now spun like a web they could barely escape.
Sarah's eyes widened in horror. "No! Please, just let us go, we haven't done anything."
"It's not you I'm after," he drawled lazily, glancing over the group.
"You think the past just disappears?" Jack's heart dropped, anger surging as he stood protectively in front of Sarah. "You need to leave her alone. Whatever happened doesn't involve us."
"Oh, but it does," Jack. The man's sinister smile widened, and with every ounce of resolve, Jack stepped closer, ready to fight for the only family he had left. Their bond was unyielding, no past could take that from him. Confusing voices shouted behind him, but he pushed through, redirecting his focus on the warmth of his daughters beside him, empathy filling him with strength. The world may be dark and chaotic, but together they could carve a way toward the light. "Nobody is leaving with her," he growled fiercely, his protective instincts surging. "I didn't come to take anyone," the man smirked, eyes dancing with malicious humor. "I just want a word." Jack's heart raced, knowing they'd face something more significant than just threats ahead. However, he held his daughters close, and his fear washed over him, a glimmer of hope pierced through the storm. Change was possible, with every breath he took, with everyone he loved standing beside him. "Let me handle this," Jack whispered to Sarah, locking eyes with her. In that moment, even amidst chaos, Jack knew they were family, unraveling the past and transforming shame into strength and love. As the shadows began to lift, a siren echoed behind them, piercing through the tension, standing as a beacon of hope. Jack summoned every ounce of courage. The fight for their future had only just begun. "Let us go. We'll figure this out together," Jack shouted as he propelled forward, the flaring determination fueling their hearts as they raced toward the light, leaving the darkness behind. And together, they would conquer whatever lay ahead, including the secrets that had threatened to drive them apart. Time was slipping, and this was the moment, the time to embrace their fate and choose family above all. Now, you need to subscribe now to keep following Jack and Sarah's incredible journey. Don't miss the next life-changing story. Leave a like now to help support the channel and feed the algorithm. Let us keep this community growing. Comment your feelings about the end. What did you think of their transformation? Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this hope-filled conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second.